Hi, this is Owen Robinson, author, results coach trainer, and founder of High Energy Academy. To start, let me ask you a really simple question. What's the one thing right here, right now, standing between you and the life of your dreams? That life of happiness, health, and success. Now, if you're as invested in self-development as I am, I'm sure you only have one answer to that. And that's you, right? There's only one thing stopping me from having the life of my dreams, and that's me. But is it actually as simple as that? My experience has shown me that with all the good intentions, all the knowledge, and all the will in the world, if you just don't have enough energy, it's impossible to create the life of your dreams. The good news is that on the other hand, I found the opposite to be true. If you have enough energy, anything is possible. Any blockages inside you get swept away. Any challenges outside of you, you can overcome. When you have high energy, you feel confident because you know you can handle anything life throws at you. When you have high energy, you feel clarity because you're not confused, not living in a fog anymore. When you have high energy, you're productive. You get a lot of stuff done and you get it done quickly. When you have high energy, you relax a lot more because you know you can afford to. When you have high energy, you feel happier. When you have high energy, you feel healthy. You feel good inside yourself, inside your own skin. When you have high energy, you feel connected. You feel connected to the world around you and to the people around you. When you have high energy, you feel integrity. You feel like you can be your word to yourself. You can be a sovereign of your own realm. You're not being pulled around anymore by external forces. When you have high energy, you feel safe and secure. You don't feel like you need to control anything anymore. You can let your guard down because you know that everything's going to be okay. When you have high energy, you feel like contributing more. You feel like giving more of yourself to the world and making the world a better place. When you have high energy, you feel inspired. Every day when you wake up, you are looking forward to the day rather than dreading it or maybe just being bored by it. When you have high energy, you grow more, you become more, you expand because you're willing to challenge yourself. You're willing to put yourself out there, go beyond your comfort zone, go to the next level. And as a result, you actually do something that matters more, you know? Maybe you feel like a lot of the time you're just struggling to get by or just keep up. Or maybe you have already achieved amazing things, but you know there's another level there for you. So here's the challenge. We all do the best we can with the energy we have available to us. But if you want to do more, if you want to be more, if you want to achieve more, then you need more energy to do it. So if energy is the most important thing you need, if it's the one thing standing between you and the life that you truly deserve, the most important question is, how do you get it? And my experience helping thousands of people over many years is that there are 4 obstacles that stand in the way from having consistently high levels of energy. So I'm going to teach you one at a time here now. First of all, it's stress and overwhelm. Okay? One of the most depleting things to our energy is actually stress. And we have more stress in our modern day than we have ever had before. So the question becomes, if stress is the main thing that drains you of energy, what is stress, right? Because we tend to think we know what stress is, but we tend to see stress as something which is outside of us, encroaching in on us, right? Making us feel bad, putting pressure on us. But the truth is that life just is the way it is. And it's our ability or lack thereof to adapt to life the way that it is, which causes stress inside ourselves, not the outside world per se. And what's the thing that actually helps us to adapt to life rather than be dragged down by it and overwhelmed and stressed by it? Well, it's energy, but it's a particular type of energy because there's not just one type of energy, there's actually 3. I'm going to teach you about all 3 of those in this video. I'm going to teach you especially about how to deal with stress and overwhelm. And I'm going to give you 2 practical exercises that you're going to be able to do right here while you watch the video, which is going to make you feel significantly better, that you can do at any time, any place. Okay? So that's the first obstacle, stress and overwhelm. The second is that we just don't know what to do, you know? We don't have clarity about what we need to do to have that sustained high energy. And the challenge is, maybe you're coming to this from a place of only just having discovered the importance of energy, in which case, fantastic, you're so lucky. I wish I'd been in your position, and you're going to get everything you need. I'm going to lay it all out for you in video 2. But perhaps you have already been studying and trying things for a while and struggling like I know that I did. And the good news for you here is that everything that I'm sharing with you is tested with everyone, from the people who've struggled the most of energy, people with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, severe issues, to athletes, business people, executives. This is universally applicable 12 laws of high energy, which if you follow these natural laws, you have sustained high energy, and if you don't, then you don't. It's really as simple as that. They're laws like gravity or the circulation of the earth around the sun. They're not something that you can get away from. But unfortunately, we have so many benefits with modern day life, you know. I love a lot of benefits in modern day life. I love the fact I can eat food from throughout the world. I love my iPhone, you know. I love a lot of my gadgets. But the truth is that a lot of modern day life is stressful for the body, and it disconnects us from our power source. It stops us from recharging with our natural rechargers. And for that reason, it's even harder than it has been ever before to have that sustained high energy lifestyle. So I'm going to teach you in video number 2 the 12 laws of high energy. I'm going to just lay it all out for you and give you one practical tip for each one so you can get going straight away with getting more energy. But then when you know what to do, there's still another hurdle, right? So that's hurdle number 3. And that's the hurdle of getting yourself to do it, right? Often known as challenges with motivation or discipline or just getting yourself moving. And so I know that there's a lot of struggle with that. I know a lot of the time we know the right thing to do, but maybe part of us is fighting against it, or part of us is like distracting us and keeping us busy with things that ultimately don't really matter as much as, you know, being happy, being healthy, living a life of your dreams. What's really more important than that, right? But we often miss that. We don't do the things that are the most important, and we're all guilty of that. I know I am too. So what you're going to learn in video number 3 is that you don't actually have to fight yourself to get yourself to do the right thing, to get yourself to do what you know is important deep down. We've been taught that that's the only way: willpower, discipline, shooting yourself, punishing yourself, right? Or then the other option is just giving in and allowing yourself to do whatever the hell you feel like it. But neither of those really serve us, right? Neither of those strategies lead to that optimal quality of life. But there is a third way, and it involves realizing that we actually don't just have one mind. We have 2 minds, you know. This has really been discovered recently by neuroscience, that we have several areas of the brain and that they don't necessarily all have the same agenda, right? So part of you is like, okay, I'm going to do what's necessary. I'm going to do the steps. I'm going to reduce my stress. I'm going to become successful. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to have great relationships. But then another part of you is like kind of sabotaging it, right? So I'm going to show you a system for resolving that completely, okay? And then the 4th step, of course, once you have got yourself to do the right thing, have you ever known that something's the right thing to do, done it, felt amazing, and then stopped doing it? Again, I know I have, right? And so the challenge there is keeping yourself doing it, right? Maintaining that momentum, keeping yourself going with consistency so that you reach that level of mastery, so that rather than it becoming a fun thing to try and, oh, it worked, and oh, I'll never do it again, it becomes a way of life so that you experience success. Because the truth is, any area of your life you want to be successful in, you need to know, you need to be able to get yourself centered and present. You need to know what to do. You need to get yourself to do it, but you also need to get yourself to keep doing it, and so that the results stick, and so that the success is consistent. And I'm going to teach you a great framework for that in a live webinar. I'm going to teach you how to tap into a part of yourself, which I'm sure you've tapped into before, but how to do it to a degree where it's consistent again, and you're tapped into a source of motivation that just keeps on going, you know? Because if your motivation is coming from a certain part of your brain, it's kind of up and down, it's in and out, you know? Like the type where you say to yourself, oh, tomorrow I'm going to go for a run, you know? That would be really awesome. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up early before work, I'm going to go for a run, and the next morning the alarm clock goes off, you're like, oh God, what was I thinking, right? That's inconsistent motivation. We want to get you to where you have consistent motivation, and whatever you set your mind to do, you do it, and you do it it until it works, and then you keep doing it, because if it works and it's creating the life of your dreams, why would you want to stop? Now, before I go into that really practical training on the 3 types of energy, how to tell if you have them, how to tell if you don't have them, and what to do to get more of them, as well as the very practical, right here, right now, get results while you're watching the video, 2 action steps which will immediately reduce your stress and overwhelm and increase your clarity, your presence, your centeredness, and your energy. Before we get into that, I just want to share a little bit about my own personal story so you know where I'm coming from, and to show you really why I care so much about this, why this is so important to me, why I've made it my life's work to make a difference in your life in this area. Funnily enough, just yesterday I was on the phone with someone who I consider a role model and a mentor, someone who is a successful published author, who has a highly successful business, who experiences really a great quality of life. And I was surprised to hear them say that they actually aspire to live the kind of lifestyle that I do. And I thought, wow, it was like a humbling moment. Like, how did I get here? Because believe me, it wasn't always like that. Throughout my life, from pretty much the moment I was born, I felt, from my first memories, I felt unhappy. I felt miserable, to be honest with you. And I felt very, very depleted. I felt very drained. I felt incapable. I felt I had to struggle all the time just to keep up. I also felt really high level of stress. I experienced some traumas during the early part of my life. Some were violent, and there was an incident where I was accidentally poisoned and had my stomach pumped and almost died. And actually my first memories of waking up after that and seeing what was going on around me. So those kind of early traumas, in combination with other factors, left me in a place where I felt bad. I felt drained. I felt like the world was a hostile and dangerous place. I really felt like no one cared about me, like nothing was ever going to be okay, like I was kind of trapped in a living hell. And I know that sounds melodramatic, but it's true. It was like, what can I do? Life is pain, life is dangerous. I used to think about suicide all the time, and I never told anyone. It wasn't like a cry for help, it was just what was going on inside me, because I hated being me so much. I hated being in this world so much, and I just wanted to escape. But I was so full of fear as well that I was too scared to end my life, so I was just trapped in this position. And you know, thank God, thank the universe, thank whatever, that there was something inside me or something outside me that called to me, that told me it's possible to feel better. It's possible to feel okay. And you know what? Scratch that. It's not just possible to feel okay, it's possible to feel amazing. And it took me a long time. It took me a lot of false starts. The first thing which I thought was my cure was drugs, to be honest. My first drug which I discovered was sugar at the age of about 5 years old. I wasn't allowed it before then, so I discovered it late compared to most kids nowadays. But once I was on sweets, I was hooked, and I loved it because I got that sugar rush. I was like, energy and excitement and enthusiasm, but then, I got the inevitable crash, right? And then life was even more miserable than before. And then when I became a teenager, I discovered different drugs. I discovered stimulants, coffee, cigarettes, alcohol, maybe even a couple of more illicit things. And all of those again seemed like a revelation. Aha, I'm full of energy again, I feel alive, I feel inspired. But of course, as is the nature of all drugs, they give you a temporary high and leave you feeling even more low and leave you feeling even worse. And by the time I got to my mid-20s, I just felt drained. I felt so depleted. I was managing to work just about. I'd been signed off work for over 2 years by then with anxiety and exhaustion issues. And I was just struggling to survive. I was living hand to mouth, I was living week by week, I was just struggling to get by and to survive. And then one day, a lot of different events transpired which left me feeling like I was kind of decaying. Like my mother had cancer 3, 4 times during her life, depending how you define it. And she ended up dying of it in 2005. My father had chronic fatigue syndrome. He got that in the mid-90s, and it took him almost a decade to recover. And by my mid-20s, I felt like I was going down the same path, like I was becoming more and more depleted. I could tell my hair was starting to fall out, my teeth and gums were starting to rot away, I was ill all the time, and I looked terrible. A lot of my friends said that I looked like a zombie. In fact, later when I improved my health somewhat, I had so many people come to me and ask for help. That's how I started doing this, because they were just like, you look so much better than you did. If you can imagine how much worse I looked then. So many things got better, but it only got better when I made the decision once and for all that I'm going to get this issue handled once and for all. And once I made that decision to get everything handled once and for all, I came to a series of realizations, which have now, many years later, crystallized into the 12 laws of high energy, which I'll share with you in video 2. But the number one most important realization is just that energy makes all the difference. Okay? If you have low energy, you can have all the right ideas, you can read the right books, you can have the right people in your life, you can have everything else, you can have the knowledge, you can even have the understanding, but you need application, you need action to get results. And in order to do that, you need to have energy, and that's the realization that I had. So I committed. I did whatever it took to get energy. And because I had no guidance, because one of the reasons I'm doing this is because I've still never found anyone who really gets it, who really gets energy. And so therefore, I felt like I have to be the one who shares this with the world, because no one else is doing it, quite simply, right? So because I didn't have that guidance, because I didn't have anyone to tell me, here's how it is, here's how simple it is, it took me a long time. It took me years of trial and error and trying a lot of different things, and a lot of the time it was pretty hard to stay motivated. It was pretty hard to stay on track, I can tell you. I remember a year after I cut everything out of my life, all the bad foods, bad habits, bad substances, bad everything, and I still looked and felt worse than ever. I remember my boss saying to me that I should just have a drink, like alcoholic drink, because this obviously wasn't working for me. It's like I'd removed all the pleasures from my life, pleasures by most people's standards, and I still wasn't getting any results. So I understand what it's like if you've been struggling for this for a while. I've been there too. It's tough, right? But a lot of it was just not knowing the right way to go, okay? Not knowing the right things to do. Now, thankfully, I found those right things to do, and I started to get massive results. And eventually, they became so amazing that people started to just come to me all the time. It was like a magnet. They'd be like, hey, I want to learn from you. Tell me, what can you share? How can I have this that you have? Whatever it may be. And so eventually I realized, chef was what I was trained to do before. I realized I don't want to be a chef anymore. I want to help people have energy. I want to help other people to have the level of transformation that I have. And since then, I've been blessed to work with many of the people who I consider role models and heroes when I was first learning. They now come to me for advice and consultations, and many of them are my ongoing clients. I've helped thousands of people in all kinds of formats, from people who've watched my videos, read my books, who've been coached by me, and now I also have the privilege of training other coaches to get real results for people, because that's something that I have a knack for. So that's my journey in a nutshell, which has brought me here to you, right here, right now, to say, listen, it is possible. You can have everything that you want. You can have everything that you deserve. But energy is an essential ingredient, to use a chef metaphor, in the whole process. Now, at this stage, I'm sure you're ready to hear about how to transform your life. So here we go. Here's the first understanding. This is a key understanding, that there are 3 types of energy, not just one, okay? The first type of energy is the easiest to understand. It's the one that we in the West readily accept, acknowledge. And that's what I call everyday energy, okay? And your everyday energy is your cellular energy. In Western jargon, if you're familiar with that, it's generally called ATP, okay? It's what makes everything physical happen. It's what makes your heart beat, it's what makes you move, it's what makes you breathe, it's the fuel that your mind burns on, right? So that's everyday energy. And everyday energy, very simply, comes from the food you eat and the air you breathe, okay? Now, let me ask you this really simple question. What's the main source of your energy? What would you say? What's the first thing that comes into your head? What's the main source, right? The majority source? Well, most people would say that that's food, right? That's the simple thing that we're taught, and that's the understanding that we have. And it makes sense that that's where our minds focus, because for hundreds of thousands or millions of years, depending how you define our species, basically throughout our evolution, we have had an abundance of the thing that we now lack. And we had a real lack of the thing we now have an abundance of. So our mind is naturally trained on the thing that we're used to lacking for millions of years. It's just automatic. What am I talking about? I'm talking about food, okay? Throughout most of our evolution, food was a rare commodity. And so our minds are used to being trained and focused on that, as if that's the important thing, that's the important thing, that's the important thing. But here's the truth, right? For us, at least in the Western world, which I assume that you're in, or the developed world, let's put it, probably more accurate. For us in the developed world, who are able to watch videos, food is not a scarce commodity, right? It's everywhere, we have an abundance of it, but we still automatically think that it's the most important thing, and our scientific training even kind of reflects that. But facts are facts, and the truth is also that actually the air you breathe, right? The air you breathe is more important to your energy. It's a more important factor, okay? The majority of the energy you get actually comes from the air you breathe. Let me give you a simple example which is scientifically verified, which is this. If you are taking glucose, right, which is like a unit of energy, basic, simple sugar, and you are converting it into energy, into ATP, right? If your body is in an anaerobic state at that moment, anaerobic means that it doesn't have enough oxygen to fuel the process, okay? If it doesn't have enough oxygen, if it doesn't have enough fresh air, then what happens? You get 2 units of ATP from 1 unit of glucose, okay? 1 unit of glucose, 2 units of energy, okay? Fair enough, right? Okay. Now, imagine that you had an abundance of fresh air. Imagine you had an abundance of oxygen in your body. Not too much, but an abundance, right? How many units of energy would you say that you then would get from 1 unit of ATP, right? The answer is up to 38. Yeah, I can't even do the math for you. 38 times as much. So the truth is, you can get 19 times as much energy from the same unit of, let's just say, food, if you have an abundance of fresh air in your body than if you don't, right? So the main thing that holds you back from having everyday energy is a lack of fresh air. Now, food is important as well, you know? You need to have good quality food, you need to have good digestion, so you're able to assimilate and absorb the food, right? So both factors are important. In fact, both are crucial, but the one that's overlooked all the time is this issue of fresh air, and also the way that we breathe, okay? Most of us, because of that stress, because of that tension, because of the overwhelm, which is entirely understandable, don't breathe properly. We don't breathe fully. We breathe from the chest instead of from the belly, as we're intended to. All babies naturally breathe from the belly. All humans would naturally breathe from the belly until we become stressed and traumatized and tense, and then we don't. And then our lung capacity is severely reduced, the amount of oxygen we get coming in is severely reduced, and our everyday energy plummets, all right? So this is a really important factor. Now when we get to the super practical bit next, I'm going to show you what I call the present breath, which is an excellent way to both energize your body and reduce stress and overwhelm at the same time, okay? So that's going to be my top tip for resolving everyday energy to start you off with, and that's coming next, okay? If you have low levels of everyday energy, it's common to feel depression, okay? It's common to have digestive problems, it's common to have lung problems, it's common to have skin problems, it's common to feel deflated, it's common to feel low and down and like gravity is too heavy, right? On the other hand, if you have high levels of everyday energy, You tend to be radiant. You tend to be buoyant. You tend to be light. You tend to be joyful and enthusiastic, okay? It's true. The more energy, the everyday energy you have, the more lightness and radiance that you tend to have. And it's not something maybe that scientists would normally talk about, but it's something that everyone knows. You know, that kind of person who's got star quality. You know, the kind of person who just walks in the room and their energy immediately transforms and lifts everything. Well, that's where you have loads of everyday energy, okay? Next factor, next type of energy, energy number 2, okay? Energy number 2 I call adaptive reserve energy, okay? It's called adaptive reserve energy. Now I know that's a little bit of a long title, but I have to give it both because it is truly both. It's the energy which allows us to adapt to whatever life throws at us, and it's our reserves, okay? It's like our battery. Let's look at the issue of adaptation first. It was Charles Darwin, right, the founding father of evolutionary theory, that said that the survival of an organism, right, which includes you and me, is not really down to being the strongest, or the smartest, or the fastest, or the biggest, or even the most beautiful. It's down to being the most adaptive, okay? Whoever can adapt to the changing circumstances of life the best survives and, in fact, reproduces, and whoever cannot doesn't, right? And that goes for species, but it also goes for individuals like you and me. So our ability to adapt is dependent on that energy. Our ability to survive and reproduce is dependent on that energy. And it's also our reserve energy, okay? And the way I like to look at this is that it's a little bit like with money, okay? It's a little bit like your savings account. Now here's the thing, and this is where a lot of people, if you were say in a victim state, which I'm sure you're not, would say, that's not fair, right? But here's the thing, we're all born with different levels of savings when it comes to this energy, right? Whereas your everyday energy comes from the air you breathe and the food that you eat, and I suppose the drinks that you drink, your reserve energy, your adaptive reserve energy, comes from your parents. And if they have a lot to give you, then great. And if they don't have a lot to give you, then it's an opportunity in disguise, okay? This explains, by the way, why some people seem to be able to just abuse their bodies, live completely self-destructively, and still keep going as if, you know, everything's okay. And I'm sure you could think of certain famous celebrities and sports stars and movie stars, rock stars particularly, who fall into that category of being able to get away with phenomenal bodily abuse and still feeling okay. Well, why can't you do that, maybe? Or why can't I do that? Well, because we have a less adaptive reserve. We were just born with less. That's the cards that we were dealt. That's just the way it is, okay? And as I say, it's like with savings. Now, here's the challenge. A lot in the West, what we call adaptive reserve energy, sometimes we call it mental energy, sometimes we call it sexual energy, but we most commonly call it adrenal energy. So what does that basically mean? That whenever our everyday energy isn't enough, whenever we're feeling low, we're tempted to tap into our reserves just to get by, okay? How do we do that? Well, we can do it by stressing our body with a poison, like a cup of coffee, or a cigarette, or an alcoholic drink. All of these things give us a rush. They give us a rush of adrenaline and dopamine and feel-good neurotransmitters because they are mild, or maybe not so mild, poisons that give us a temporary rush and release some energy. Now, is that always wrong? No, of course not. Maybe it might be appropriate. But as a way to live your life, it's not very sustainable. In the same way that if you're not earning enough to see you through the week or the month, tapping into your savings or spending the money on credit cards is not sustainable, right? At some point, you're going to go broke, you're going to go bankrupt, you're going to have to forfeit. Now, here's the difference. If you run out of money, or if you get massively in debt with money, you can declare bankruptcy and pretty much start again. You know, it's not that bad. But if you run out of reserve energy, you're dead, basically, you know, if you're completely out. And if you run low on reserve energy, you feel horrible, right? You're severely depleted. And all the areas I've told you about are especially specifically affected, right? So your mental energy, You tend to have problems with your memory. You tend to get confused easily, tend to have a lack of clarity, okay? Also relates to your endurance, your ability to feel excited about life, right? The good adrenal energy will eventually become depleted. Your sexual energy, you may notice that your libido is low, or that your fertility is low. And it also relates to your joints and tendons. A lot of the time you get aches and pains all over the place, especially in your lower back and your knees. These are all classic signs that your adaptive reserve energy is really low. Now, on the other hand, if your adaptive reserve energy is high, it's really simple. You experience good levels of all those things, right? So your mind is really clear and sharp, and it's easy to remember things. You have an abundance of endurance, and you have an abundance of get up and go and of heightened awareness when you really need it. That dopamine adrenal rush when you really need it. You also have a good libido, right? A good sex drive. Your ability to reproduce is at a high level. People who have high adaptive reserve energy at a high level also tend to be very cool, calm, focused. They tend to be confident. They tend to be powerful. They tend to be even charismatic and magnetic. They tend to have that ineffable quality which comes from really high levels of fundamentally confidence. Now, why would confidence give you all those qualities? Why would you have the confidence? Because when you feel like your reserves are low, and when you feel like you can't face whatever life throws at you, you become scared, right? Understandably. But the problem is, and you're not confident anymore. But the problem is, the challenge is, it's a vicious circle. The more stress you experience, the more depleted you get, and the more depleted you are, the more you experience stress. So it's a downward spiral. And what we want to do, and what you'll learn to do with the 12 laws of high energy, is shift that to an upward spiral, right? Where you build up more reserves, and as a result you have more confidence, and you feel more safe and secure, and like you can handle everything life throws at you. And the more that you feel that, the more that you have reserves, and it goes up and up and up. And that's absolutely possible as well. And that's what happened to me, with my story. I started off low, and up until the age of 25, I was just dwindling down the plug hole. And then, thank God, I discovered that there was another way, and slowly but surely, over the few years, I've got up to a level now where I was way higher than I ever was. So that's the good news, no matter where you're at, even if you're really struggling, and you'll hear later in a different video from a couple of people who really struggled, okay, really had huge challenges where their energy was almost completely empty, and they were really suffering as a result. No matter where you're at, it's absolutely possible to get back up there, okay? It's absolutely possible to get to an extraordinary level, but you need to know how, you need to be able to get yourself to do it, and you need to be able to stick to it, and you need to not have stress and overwhelm stop you from even starting, okay? So we'll look at that next, after the last type of energy, okay? So the third type of energy. The third type of energy is what I call your harmonic energy, okay? And this is the one that's a little bit more difficult for Western scientific mindset to understand up until recently. But the way we can really see it is by looking at the brain, okay? For the longest time, scientists always imagined, when they looked at an Einstein or a Leonardo da Vinci or someone extraordinary, they imagined that their brain must be bigger, or that their brain must be more developed in a certain area, okay? Or something like that. Well, it turned out that that wasn't really the case. Your average person like you or me, or your Adolf Hitler, or your Leonardo da Vinci, didn't look that different. So, what's going on here? The truth is this. The truth is that the more that your brainwaves are out of harmony, rather than just good or bad, high or low, the worse quality of life you're going to have. And the more that your brainwaves are in harmony, the greater quality of life that you're going to have. And so the more that you have this level of harmonic energy, the more that every part of you is working harmoniously. And when all the brain waves are in harmony, every other part of your body is in harmony as well. And you know the kind of feeling, like I talked about earlier, where you know what the right thing to do is for you, you know you should do it, but you can't get yourself to do it. Or you do get yourself to do it, but then you feel resentful afterwards because part of you didn't really want to do it. Or you know the kind of feeling where one part of you wants to do one thing, one part of you wants to do another thing, and the third part of you just doesn't know, right? All of that internal conflict is the opposite of what I'm talking about here. The more you have that internal conflict, the more you have a lack of harmony, generally the lower quality of life that you're going to experience, right? So here's the great thing to realize again, is that this is simply another type of energy to cultivate. If you have low levels, it's okay. You can get high levels. If you already have high levels compared to most people around you, awesome. But you can have high levels still, right? You can always have it greater and greater levels of harmony. And again, those neuroscientific researchers have discovered that some extraordinary people, like for instance the Dalai Lama and his monks, or certain Taoist high-level masters and practitioners, have just extraordinary brainwaves of just incredible level of harmony. So it's always possible to have more harmony. Now here's the interesting thing. If you're familiar with any kind of success philosophy, you're probably familiar with the concept that in order to be successful, you need unity. Yeah? You need unity of purpose. You need to be clear on what you want, right? Setting goals, but you need to then go for it without being pulled here and there, without being distracted, without having internal conflict. Well, that happens the more that you have high levels of harmonic energy. And you'll learn great practical tips for how to have high levels for both of those two, adaptive reserve energy and harmonic energy, in the 12 Laws training with video 2. So if you're not already subscribed, make sure that you subscribe to make sure that you definitely receive that, right? Do the whole Facebook like thing to make sure you get a notification. Make sure you're on board with this, right? Because this is a process where I'm basically giving you everything that you need for free. But it's still up to you, okay? And I'm challenging you right now to engage with this process and do what it takes to get what's really important to you, which is that high level of consistent energy. But now you know it's not just one type of energy, okay? A lot of people think of energy as stimulation, okay? I'm quite enthusiastic at the moment, right? And that's great, and that's because I'm enthusiastic to share that with you. But high energy doesn't necessarily mean that. You can be high energy, and you can be really focused, and you can be really introverted, and you can be really calm, okay? That's absolutely possible as well. But here is the key distinction. Energy is not overstimulation, okay? A lot of people, when I tell people what I do, they tend to respond in one or two ways. They're either like, oh, I could do some more energy, awesome. Or they're like, oh, I don't need that, I already have loads of energy. And I say, okay, well, that sounds awesome. And I ask them to describe their life. I'm like, you know, do you get a decent amount of sleep? Do you find it easy to relax at the end of the day? Do you find it easy to get present and turn your head off so that you can just be? And the answer to that usually is no, absolutely no. I'm kind of in a frenzy. I'm kind of overexcited and overstimulated all the time. I don't say that, but that's kind of what I'm getting from it. And I know that feeling, right? In fact, I was exactly like that. I went from kind of depressive to hyperactive. Those are the two poles I swung between as a child and a young adult, right? Neither of those states are high energy. The truth is that high energy is also always balanced, okay? It's always harmonized. So it's not the case that with the kind of energy I'm talking about here, that once it becomes too high, you'd be bouncing off the walls, okay? Because a lot of people fear that. I don't want to be one of those hyperactive kind of people, but you won't be, okay? What you'll be is one of those extraordinary kind of people. One of those extraordinary kind of people who make a really huge difference in the world. One of those kind of extraordinary people who really matter. In fact, let me ask you something. You may well have made a study of highly successful people. Have you ever come across one that was low in energy? Have you ever come across someone extraordinary in your eyes that was low of energy? In fact, let me ask you this. If you could remember right now, maybe one or two of the real low points in your life, right? When bad things happened, maybe, or just when you felt bad, just for a second, right? Now, if you think back to that memory, let me ask you this. Did you feel high in energy at the time? Okay? I've done this exercise with a lot of people, and the answer is always no, you know? And let me ask you this. Let me ask you, when was the last time you felt amazing? Okay? May have been a long time, may have been a minute ago. Whenever it was, when was the last time you felt amazing, right? One or two times where you felt incredible. Well, during those times, just put yourself back there right now, and let me ask you this. how did you feel? Did you feel low in energy? Of course not, you know. There is an obvious correlation, but we just don't see it. We think that the good thing happening to us makes us feel the energy, and that can sometimes be the case, but the truth is, if you're high in energy, no matter what happens, you feel amazing. And occasionally really awful things happen, and you know what? Then you swing with the punches. You are able to actualize the training of famous success and personal development guru Napoleon Hill, that every adversity contains within it an at least equal and opposite opportunity for success, right? Really easy to say, really easy to repeat the phrase, hard to live by unless you have extraordinary high levels of energy. Now, let's get down to something really practical. And I discovered the power of this training when I was trying to help people who were really struggling to even do very simple things. And I was like, what can I give them which is just immediately effective, immediately powerful, and immediately encouraging that it really is possible to feel better straight away? And it's called the present breath, okay? Now, what is presence? Presence is awareness of right here, right now. What's the opposite of presence? The opposite of presence is being in your head, you know, in your thoughts, in your fantasies, in your memories of the past, in your imaginations of the future, right? Now, sometimes in life we have to think about stuff, of course, but as a default setting, as a way of life, we actually want to be living here in the real world, not in our heads. Now, when a lot of people come to me and tell me that they have stress, that they have overwhelm, that they have anxiety, I always say you don't have too much stress, you have not enough presence. Okay? Let me just repeat that so you really get it clear. It's not that you have too much stress, it's that you don't have enough presence. Okay? Because here's the truth, right? Throughout most of our evolution again, there are lots of real scary things out there ready to get us, right? That really was the situation. The truth is, in the developed world, right now, about 98% of the stress that we have is in our head, okay? We're responding to imaginary situations as if they're going on right now, because that's the way that we're wired. Or we're responding to things that happened in the past as if they're happening out right now. We're replaying traumatic or scary things over and over and over again, and it affects our body, and we become more and more stressed and less present. Now again, no one's making you or me wrong, because this is just the way we're wired. We wouldn't have survived as a species if we didn't have that tendency to focus on scary and anxiety-provoking things, right? That's what's kept us alive up until now. But the ironic thing is that recently, especially with the establishment of modern media and advertising, they know that the easiest way to get your attention is to give you something scary. Now, fear is not new. We've always had many reasons to be afraid, but they've just increased and they've just heightened, and our exposure to them has just increased over the last few decades or so, particularly to the point where we're less and less present than ever, and we're more and more living in our head, replaying and reacting to all those different scary things all the time. So, what do? Well, it's a good idea to cut those things out, but the challenge is it's not a good idea to focus on what not to do. Right? So, what to do? What's the thing which is going to help right here, right now? It's to make a practice of getting present. So, this is something that you can do at any time, pretty much in any place, pretty much, and no one will even notice, and yet it makes a huge difference to your life. And it's to do with the way you breathe and what you do with your awareness, what you do with your attention. So first of all, let's look at the way we breathe, okay? Learning how to breathe. Now, most of us, when we breathe, especially where we're stressed, especially where we're tense, is we breathe from the chest, okay? So we go like... You may have noticed that during this video I haven't done that. And the reason for that is because I've retrained myself to breathe in the way which is actually healthy and actually good for you, which is from the belly, which if I show you from a side view is like this. When you breathe in, your belly goes out, and when you breathe out, your belly goes in. So try that with me right here, right now. Just get your hands, put them on your belly around your navel, and then breathe in and push, have your belly go out, and then breathe out and push your belly in. One more. Excellent. And if you struggle with that, it's a great sign that you have high levels of tension, high levels of stress that need resolving, and that's okay. And a lot of different people can help you with that, one-on-one if necessary. Generally, yoga teachers, martial arts teachers, qigong teachers, singing teachers, drama teachers, anyone who's really involved in showing you how to use your body at an optimal, to an optimal level will be able to show you how to breathe that way through the belly. But for most people, it's really just as simple as realizing, okay? So remember, and it's not going to happen immediately, it's not going to happen overnight, but remember, every time you get tense, just, oh, I need to breathe from the belly, okay. And then just take a deep breath from the belly, and take a deep breath in, and then pause for a second, just for a second. When you've taken that deep breath into the belly, just pause and become aware of the world around you, okay? Become aware of the sights around you, you know? So right now I can see the camera, I can see the lights around me, I can see the opposite wall, I can see my chair, my computer, I can see my plants, I can see my fireplace, all these things around me. Become aware, what's around you, okay? Become aware of the actual physical things around you can see. And become aware of the sounds, okay? Sure, you can hear me, I'm sure when you've been tuning to me, what other sounds are going on, you know? So like an electric humming, is there noise outside, are there people talking in the next room, what's going on, okay? Sound-wise, become aware of the smells, okay? It's a very, very deep thing for us to become present, to become aware of what smells are going on around you, you know? Become aware of sensations, become aware of touch, become aware of what's going on inside your body. What are you actually feeling, okay? Very important, again, if you're experiencing any negative states like stress. What are you actually feeling in your body? Are you feeling tension somewhere? Are you feeling tightness? Are you feeling warmth, coldness? What sensations are going on, right? And then lastly, taste, okay? Probably not the most important in every circumstance, but again, what taste, right? So look at the 5 senses, become aware of what's going on right here, right now. And you just do that for a couple of seconds. So you take a breath in, stop, just become aware of the world around you, and then breathe out slowly while your belly goes in. So try that again with me, okay? So follow along. You take a deep breath in, your belly goes out. Stop, become aware of the world around you. And then just breathe out slowly while staying aware of the world around you. And that's it. Now you can do that again and again, and it will be more and more benefit. It will be like charging your battery of reserves. But even just doing it once, no matter what situation you're in, you know? Say you're in the car and you're stressed because the other drivers and some driver cuts you up and you're tempted to go into a rage, which is just releasing poisons, which actually are bad for your liver and destroy your body. Instead of that, just stop and take a breath. Become aware. Oh, okay. Keep your eyes on the road, obviously. You know, imagine someone says something to you that you don't like or upsets you. Before you react, just stop. Take a breath, become aware. Breathe out and then respond. Okay? No one's going to mind if you take a few seconds to just take a breath before you respond to them. Okay? There's always an opportunity to just take a breath and become present whenever it's necessary. And the more that you learn to take those opportunities, the better the quality of your life will be. And it's really that simple, you know. And this is something which has been again and again confirmed and proven in brain research, right? That when you become present, it activates the center of the prefrontal cortex, which is an area that you want to be more active. And most of us don't have active enough, right? And moves your attention away from the right side, which is where we tend to feel passive and where we tend to feel depressed and passive in the sense of there's nothing I can do, I can't, that kind of victim mentality, and over to an empowered state. A key step to that is to become present, to become aware of what's going on right here and right now. So practice that as much as you possibly can. And everything's an opportunity, by the way. It doesn't just have to be problems. It could be while you're on Facebook, while you're watching TV, while you're bored at work, right? Every opportunity, every moment is an opportunity to get present. And presence is like savings. Presence, the more you practice it, the more you have. It's like every time you do it, another second of practice presence is like another penny in your piggy bank of your reserve energy, okay? The more you practice it, the better off you'll be. Okay, that's practical exercise number 1. You can practice that during the rest of the video, and I highly encourage you to practice it in your life. Put up a sign to remind you. You can. Some of my clients like to program something into their phone so that every hour it just says, hey, get present. Oh yeah, remember, get present, right? To stop you from being stuck in your head, stop you from being stuck in anxiety and stress and tension and overwhelm, and get back into your body, get back into breathing into your belly and getting present. Now here's the other thing. That's how to use your body, right? But how about how to use your mind to reduce stress and to reduce overwhelm? Well, there's one key distinction that I've found that makes a huge difference, both in terms of your success and productivity, as well as in terms of your energy and your stress. It's just massively beneficial, and it's this. Get your to-do list and throw it away. Burn that sucker, right? What do I mean by that? Now, you may have a to-do list, like you literally write down all the things you want to do on a piece of paper. You may have a really complicated one in a book binder, and you may not write it down at all. You may just have a list in your head. But all of us, except for perhaps people living as monks or hermits, we have some kind of list of the things that we know we need to do, right? Now, here's the challenge with that. The more that we focus on the things we do, the more that we tend to feel stress and anxiety because they're still not done. And here's the even bigger problem, right? When you actually successfully complete that item on your to-do list, what do? Do you celebrate? Do you reward yourself for being awesome? No, you cross it off, right? You just remove it from the list. How incredibly unmotivating is that, right? How uninspiring is that? So here's the challenge. When you have a to-do list, you get high levels of adrenaline, which is fear or anxiety, and you get low levels of dopamine, which is that feeling of expectation and reward, that feeling that successful people have that makes you feel successful. When, on the other hand, you have a list of goals or objectives or outcomes, and that's my favourite word, outcomes that you want to achieve, it stimulates dopamine inside your system. And instead of crossing that sucker out, give it a great big tick. Or I have a book of goals that I complete every day, and I go through just with a yellow marker and I'm like, yes, I highlight it, like, yes, another achievement. Pat myself on the back, well done me. Now, I know that may sound a little bit silly, but it's awesome for motivation, it's awesome for making you feel good, and it's awesome for the health of your body and for your energy levels. Because the thing about adrenaline and cortisol and that stress and anxiety is that they are damaging. They're damaging to you immediately in terms of the quality of your life, and they're very damaging to you long term in terms of your longevity, in terms of your chances of getting disease. The Western medical science is absolutely convinced that one of the main causes of most of the diseases we have is stress, right? It's a huge factor. So anything that reduces stress is massively important and massively beneficial. Now, dopamine, on the other hand, is that stuff that makes you feel awesome. It's the success neurotransmitter. It's the success chemical, right? And we get that every time we feel we've achieved something. Now, whatever you focus on, you have more of, right? Whatever you focus on, you magnify. There's a challenge with that. The challenge is the more you focus on the problems, or the more you focus on the things to do, the more you feel bad. In fact, I would kind of categorize the quality of your life depending on what you focus on, right? If you're focusing on your problems, if you're focusing on what's bad, you will tend to feel bad. These people who do this are the kind of people, and I definitely was one of them most of my life, who are in a victim state. Oh, this is bad, oh, this is bad, this is bad, right? And then the next level up from that is what I call the stressors, right? These are the people who focus on what there is to do, and they're crossing things off their to-do list all the time. And it is a better quality of life than being passive and depressed and suicidal, like I was, but it's still not great, and it's still liable to leave you in a burnt out position where you're not able to adapt, where you're not feeling awesome, where you're not able to create the life of your dreams, right? And then there's the third option. And the third option is that you must always be aiming towards goals or outcomes, right? What do I want to achieve? What do I want to achieve? What do I want to achieve? Now, you may think, well, how does this apply to me? Oh, and I just have a list of things, and do the washing up and pick up the kids from school and make lunch, whatever, right? Practical, simple things. I don't have these huge, big goals. Well, first of all, I'd say get some, right? Create some, make some. But you're right. A lot of the time, these goals are just simple, practical, everyday things. So how do we do it? Well, we do it by reframing or reclassifying them, right? So if you need to tidy up the kitchen, right? That's your to-do list. Now, the victim would say, oh my God, the kitchen's filthy, how depressing, right? Your stressor would say, that's something I need to do. Okay, I need to do it. I need to grit my teeth and get on with it, right? And then after, okay, that's done. Right? But your achiever is going to go, I want to have a beautiful, clean kitchen. That inspires me. That excites me. That makes me feel good about myself. That makes me have self-esteem. That makes me have self-worth. That makes me feel proud to have a clean kitchen. So that's what I'm going to achieve. You see the difference? Same task, 3 different approaches, right? So I'm assuming that if you're watching a video like this, you worked out the victim one doesn't serve you, but the stress one doesn't serve you either, right? Get onto the achievement cycle. Give you another example. Doing this present breath, right? You could say, oh my God, I'm never present, what a problem, right? Or you could say, oh my God, it's another thing that I have to do and I've got to remember to do it, and I've got to remember to do it today, and then I can cross it off my list, okay, it's another thing that's done. Well, it'll still kind of benefit you if you do that, it will, but you won't feel nearly as inspired about doing it, and you probably won't stick to it, right? On the other hand, every day, I want to remember at least 3 times, or whatever you decide, to do the present breath, because I want to feel amazing, and because I want to be centered, and because I want to be confident, because I want to be calm, because I want to feel like I'm a person who can achieve great things. I want to feel like I'm in control of my life, right? Whatever it is for you. That's the next level, and that's the next level that I'm encouraging you to get to. So get rid of that to-do list and replace it with a to-achieve list, okay? Your outcomes that you want to achieve, and the amount of stress that you have will massively reduce, but your motivation won't, right? Because so many of us are used to motivating ourselves through stress. How else are you going to do it, right? You basically work yourself up into, oh, I better go to bed because otherwise it's a problem, or I better go to work otherwise I get fired and then I'll become homeless and my wife will divorce me, my husband. No. This isn't the way forward. It's like, what do you want to achieve? That's the next level, and that's what I highly encourage you to do. So you can start that today, and I encourage you to do that. You can start that tonight. You can get rid of that to-do list and replace it with a to-achieve list. And when you think about what there is to do tomorrow, and don't put it off, by the way, do it the night before. That's my recommendation. Look, okay, tomorrow I need to achieve this, and this. And will other things come up inevitably? Yeah, of course. And they can just be other achievements that you add to your list. Oh, I also achieved this. Right? Rather than being problems, rather than being, oh my God, rather than being overwhelmed, it's another thing to achieve. Now, before I leave you for now, I want to challenge you to do one more thing, okay? I want you to apply this mentality, which I've just shared with you, to the area of your life which is most important. That's right, your energy, right? So rather than thinking like, oh, I have too much stress, I don't have enough energy, rather than focusing on that, rather than focusing on what do I need to do, right? Focus on what you want to achieve. What is high energy to you, okay? I've shared from my experience, from myself, from helping many other people, what it's been to them, but what is it to you? What is the most important thing to you about having high energy? What could you do if you had high energy? Why is having high energy worth it? Why is having consistently high energy, having endurance, having confidence, calmness, centeredness, connection, whatever it may be for you? What is it that makes a high energy lifestyle a compelling proposition for you? What is the goal for you, right? And I want to challenge you to formulate that and then share it, okay? Share it in the comments box below, because there's something about publicly declaring something, especially among a group of supportive people, which is exactly what this is, which is tells yourself this is real. This is real now, okay? This isn't just me messing about. This is something that I'm actually going to do. So something about public declaration which is really powerful. In fact, how about this? You could complete this sentence for me. When I have consistently high energy, I will, okay? and then just whatever is true for you, fill in the blanks. Make that declaration, make it publicly. Now, of course, you've got the section below to ask questions, to share anything you want to share. I really appreciate any questions that you have, and I'll do my absolute best to answer them. I really appreciate it if you make any comments, and I would really especially appreciate it if you would share the word about this, if you would share the message, okay? Because this is the time. This is the time to stop messing about, to stop being pulled into distraction, to stop making excuses, to stop being stuck, even if you're struggling and doing your best, thinking, why am I not at that level that I know I can be at? You know the answer now, right? The answer is energy, and this is just the beginning. Over the next few days, you're going to receive every other training which is going to give you everything you need to know. But for now, what I want to encourage you to do is to share that vision and then share this message with the world, okay? So think to yourself, who would benefit from hearing this? Who do I know who is ready to experience an extraordinary quality of life? Who do I know who would benefit from having more energy? Who do I know who would benefit from having less stress? Who do I know who would benefit from this message? And then share it with them, you know, because there is something energizing about doing good. There's something amazing about contributing. There's something amazing about making the world a better place. It helps us feel better about ourselves. It helps us to have more of that harmony energy, that harmonic energy, and it helps us to feel like we deserve to have the life of our dreams, okay? So I highly encourage you as well, just to share this message with everyone who you think would really appreciate it. And lastly, I just want to honor and acknowledge you for joining me on this journey. I really appreciate that your time and that your energy are incredibly valuable. So many people make excuses about why they can't have the life they deserve, why they can't have the life of their dreams, why they can't live up to their full potential. And I really appreciate that you are one of those few rare and precious people who is committed to doing whatever it takes to master your energy and to become the best you that you can be. And I thank you, and I really appreciate you allowing me to guide you through this portion of the way. So video 2, where you're going to have the next level of training, is coming really soon. Until then, become aware of the free energies in your life and practice the practical steps, okay? Practice the present breath and practice getting away from the to-do list and to get the achievers list in instead. And I'll see you for video 2.